Welcome to the Word for 2021. Today we're in Genesis chapter 9. Here in Genesis chapter 9, God makes a covenant with Noah, all his descendants, and all the animals. He put his rainbow in the sky as a sign that he will keep his covenant. A rainbow is an extraordinary event to see. A rainbow is spectacular. It's exciting. In our house, whenever we would see a rainbow, we would yell, "Kids, come quick, take a look at the rainbow." It was something to look forward to. People are intrigued by rainbows. Now, a rainbow technically is a bent or a curved line in the sky made up of 7 colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. In school, we use the term Roy G. Biv to remember the order of all those colors. Scientifically, a rainbow is made up because of droplets in the sky. As the sun hits each one of these little droplets of water in the sky, one color is emitted from each of those droplets. It takes an enormous amount of raindrops to make that spectacular, magnificent rainbow in the sky. Here in Genesis chapter 9, the word rainbow is actually the same word used for a warrior's bow. The symbolism of the rainbow is that God has hung up his bow in the clouds. It's as though God were saying, "My judgment is over. I am through fighting, and I'm hanging up my bow in the sky." The rainbow is a sign of hope, assurance, and promise. God was saying through the rainbow that my judgment will never include that of a global flood again. Now, sin had reached the point where there was no hope for man any longer. Sin had reached its limit. In Genesis chapter 6, verse 6, again, we read that as God looked at all that was taking place here on the earth, his heart was filled with pain, and he was grieved, and he regretted the fact that he had even made man. Therefore, a global flood was a judgment of sin. Here in chapter 9, beginning in verse 9, God makes a covenant with Noah and all the descendants of Noah and all the animals that never again will he destroy all the earth with a global flood. It says in verse 14, "Whenever I bring clouds over the earth, the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant." The rainbow is not a symbol of defiance or the flaunting of sin, but is the symbol that God will no longer judge sin in the same way again, that being through a global flood. Sin will be judged, but not again with a flood. The rainbow is a sign that God keeps his promises. It's a symbol of hope there in the sky. Well, there's another symbol of hope that we see as well, and that is the cross. Whenever we look at the cross, we know how much God loves us. It tells us how much he loves us. We know that Jesus took our place on the cross, that God had Jesus die on the cross so that our sin could be taken away. That's how much he loves us. God sent his only Son to take away our sin. The cross also tells us that he is in control. Sin was not in control that day, but God was in control. Jesus determined the place and the time and the manner in which he would die. Everything that he came to do was climaxed there on the cross. It is finished. Sin was not in control. God was in control. And a third thing that the cross tells us is that God has a bigger plan. From the very creation of the world, from the foundation of the world, it tells us in Revelation that Jesus was crucified. In God's mind, he knew that we needed redemption, and Jesus would pay the price for our redemption. That was in God's mind from the very beginning. So as we look at the cross, it's a sign of hope in that God is in control and that God loves us. When we look at the rainbow in the sky, it tells us that God keeps his promises and that God is on the throne. We know that there is hope because our hope is in God. Thank you for joining the Word for 2021.